Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Adventures of a Real Estate Investor. I'm Susie.
And I'm Michael, and we're excited you joined us for this adventure.
So today I'm so excited because actually I'm not even going to tell you yet, but I'm going to let you know who's joining us. We have a duo and it's going to be super awesome. So we have Stephanie Orr and Sammi Johnson. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, we're very excited to be here.
Yeah, no, it's super awesome. And just to let the listeners know, the Adventurers family, how did I meet Sammi and Stephanie? So it's actually super cool. As many of you know, Michael and I invest in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And since I was visiting our property so often, I was like, okay, instead of staying in a hotel, I'm really just going to do the Airbnb experience because real estate investor, it made a lot of sense to me. Well, 3 Airbnbs later, I met Stephanie and I was like, winner, 10 for 10. And now I've stayed there 5 times. And the best part about it though, is that one morning I walk out of my room, right? And Sammy's right there. And I'm like, oh, hey, now I get to meet everyone. Of just, staying with Stephanie, getting to know her better, watching her grow as a real estate investor, watching her and Sammi create this fantastic duo that you guys are all going to learn about. But I'm just so happy that our paths cross because now it's so much fun. The conversations we have, whether it's 5 a.m. or 10 o'clock at night, they're always great.
Yes, over grapes or, whatever.
Yeah, bananas.
Yes, the bananas. Oh, my.
You guys need to calm down. You're partying way too much.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Awesome. Well, Sammi or Stephanie, would you mind sharing a little bit about your background and how you got started investing in real estate?
Yeah, we would love to. So since my 20s, wanted to be in real estate. Didn't really exactly know how. Came from pretty working class family. Dad was a mechanic. Mom is a teacher. Did not invest in much. They were worker bees. But I don't know where it came from, but I always wanted to invest in real estate. But my path kind of led me the normal collegiate way and into corporate America. Mm-hmm. And so I worked in oil and gas for a lot of years, 15-ish to 20 years or so. And I really, the thing that really turned me, that it kind of was like an accidental landlord, was an unfortunate divorce. And so I went through a divorce, and in that divorce bought a property, and really was to make sure my daughter was safe and things were going to be fine. And ended up, it was supposed to be a property for my ex, and it ended up coming back to me. And so I have that and turned into an accidental long-term rental, which I still have today and love it. And then as my corporate kind of career was, in my opinion, I was done. I needed to be done with that part of my life. And I just took a step back. I was a partner in an oil and gas company, and it afforded me a little bit of an opportunity to take a step back, have some time at the house and focus on my daughter, Tia. And I started doing Airbnb out of our guest room because I was like, okay, let's figure out, how we can do something here, small, one little small step to get me going in that direction. And so I started renting one room out of the house. So house hacking, as people in the biz might say or whatever. And then about a year into it, I was like, this is genius. I have to wash sheets. That's what I have to do. Super easy. And Tia helped me. Yeah. Tia helped me through the process, clean the room, and she would earn a little money from cleaning. And then my bank account just overnight would have money in it. And it was magical. And I was like, let's do more of this. And so after a year, we opened our second room. We have a 4-bed, 4-bath house. And so I didn't even know when I bought the house, but I think it's perfect for what we do. Mm-hmm. And so each bedroom has their own private bathroom. And so we have 2 private suites. And so, as Susie knows, she stayed in both of them. Yeah. And I schedule my whole life around her visits. So she actually stayed with us, I think, one time before I even realized what a real estate superstar she was. And then she left me we kind of talked about why she was here maybe the second time. And I got at that same time I got connected. I got remarried, and he had a property, and I was like, let's Airbnb it. And so really Airbnb was my start, if you guys are catching on to that. And so he has a higher risk aversion than I do. And he was like, do it, you've always wanted to do this, just take the jump, make the start. We already had a decent start. And he was like, go all in. And so I absolutely loved him for that. And he pushed me every day to make offers and move forward. And so anyway, really our kind of had this like connection point with people. So because of my beginnings, my family is very worker bee-ish. And so that's what is like I have just naturally in me. And so I kind of had this point where I connected with Susie. She gave me the book, 7-Figure Flipping. Is that the correct name? Yeah. And so she was like, you should read this book. It's great. And I was like, okay, I don't read very well, like, but I'll, for you, I'll do it because I love you so much.
And I wish we had the book because it is dog-eared.
I did. Well, no, it's not the book.
Yeah, she has read it and read it and read it.
I love it.
My handbook. It really is like my handbook. I reference it all the time. I have all these pages marked. But I kind of had this point where I connected with people and in my community and with Susie that really took me to the next step. And so the book was a part of that, as well as what I did was I posted the book on Facebook. And I was like, you can't believe what my Airbnb guest. Yes. And so
I have to find it.
I mean, I've just had such a great experience with Airbnb guests. Like, and people are always from a mindset of, I can't believe you let strangers in your house.
That's me. I could not believe it.
And I was like, so every time I have an opportunity to share on social media about what that brings, how much that adds to our lives, Tia and I try to share that. So I shared the book online on my Facebook. It was like, you can't believe what my Airbnb guest left me. She's so awesome. And a local person, a coach, is now one of our local mentors, Amanda, reached out and was like, that's my mentor too. The author of the book was her mentor. And so that really gave us this connection. And then Susie's later connected with her as well. And so I went to her name's Amanda House. She owns Atlas Homes here in Tulsa. So give her a little plug. And so she started an education program and I went to a wholesaling class with her. And after I went through the first class, I walked out and I'm like, we're going to wholesale like this. We can do this. And so I reached out to Sammi after I'd read a little bit of the book and I was like, Sammi, like I realized that wholesaling was so much marketing driven and social media. And that's what her background is in. And I was like, this is genius for us to start this. Like, and so Triangle start and Sammi jumped on board immediately. She's like, yes, let's do it. So
I think after I listened to a Bigger Pockets podcast on wholesaling, I was like, okay, we can do this. We can figure this out.
Yeah. So that's pretty much how it started.
And then where are you now with Triangle Homes?
Well, so I'll let Sammi take over on this one.
We started Triangle March 28th. So I would say we are a new business. We have 3 contracts on houses. We have a closing date on Tuesday, our first one. So we signed that 5 weeks after we started on May 2nd, around then. And we had no idea what we were doing. So we had taken classes, we had watched videos, we'd listened to podcasts, we read Bill Allen's book. We had all the education part, but we had never done anything like this. And so we walked into Amanda's office and said, we have an appointment. What are we going to do?
We sent out direct mailers.
Yes.
That was our first business step was to send out PropStream, which I'm sure a lot of people listening are familiar with. We sent out a group of direct mailers of around 300, like not huge at all.
The test run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were trying to get ready for the properties in Tulsa County were coming up, and we were just doing a test run to get ready for that. And we got a call off of 300 postcards. It cost us like $100 or something. I don't know. It was practically nothing.
So we went into Amanda's office and said, what do we do? And we said, he wants $100,000 for this house. What do you think? And so she stepped us through and said, no, you're going to offer 60. And we went, 60? Great. It's not going to go down $40,000. And she was like, here's the steps you take. And she told us, when you walk in the door, you say this, you spend 20 minutes doing this, then you walk around the house. And this is the list of pictures that you take. And these are the things you say. When he says this, you reply with this. And I mean, Steph is writing down everything she said. Yeah. We role played it, memorized it, everything. We had no idea. And you're supposed to walk through the house with somebody. I know not everybody knows wholesaling, but you should walk through with the owner.
Well, why don't you take a second and explain wholesaling for maybe those that don't understand?
Okay.
Yeah.
Wholesaling is a service that we provide for sellers and buyers. So if somebody wants to sell their home, it's usually in a emergency situation, like it's distressed or a divorce or a loss of a loved one. and they need to sell this home quickly. Then we go and we sign a contract with them. Then we go out and find a buyer. So there's no cash for us. And we find that buyer and connect them to a seller. And so we're the middleman service person. So we get those houses ready, which is our first house was a doozy. So,
and that's where we came up with triangle with the 3
that's
points.
why I'm doing this all the time.
Like
your triangle.
Yeah. So, we're 1 point of the triangle, and then the seller is 1 point and the investor is the other point. And so we're connecting them together. And really we're just assigning and kind of in theory working for investors going out and finding those deals so they don't have to spend their time doing that.
Yeah.
So, and we get a fee for assigning the contract. So that's the basic principle.
Correct. So when we went into this home, he was cleaning out. It was a loved one's home. He was a guardian of her. So we did not realize that at the time or what that meant to our lives and how it was going to ruin our lives. So he had
That'll make it great.
He had a second home he was cleaning out, and he wanted us to meet him there and get a key and then go through the house by ourselves.
So like, oh no, this disrupting the plan. Like, what do we do? Because we had this like very strict outline, We're like, wait a minute, this isn't in the plan. What do we do?
So it ended up working out great because we didn't know what we were doing. So we got to walk through the house by ourselves. We got to say,
vacant.
what do we need to take pictures of? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so it was this cute little property. It's on the very edge of a very sought after district in our city. But it was right on the corner, and it was up against a pawn shop. So it was kind of not perfect.
Yeah.
But we could say it was in that district. So we were like, well, it's still in there. But it had a little garage apartment in the back. And the woman who owned the house had allowed somebody to live there for free for over 3 years.
Hence the complication.
Yeah.
So guardianship was first complication we did not understand. And the second one was a squatter.
Yeah.
And so him and his sister lived in this apartment. We talked to him that day. And after we went back and signed the contract, we talked to them, and they were very confused how we were able to buy their home with the main home. They did not understand.
It was all one property.
It was all one, and it was not his permanently.
Yeah.
But so we walked through the house and we went back to the man who was cleaning out the hoarder house, and we sat down with him. I'm not going to walk through every single thing, but I mean, we did all the sales techniques. So we knew at that point,
which were like 2.
Yeah.
like mirroring. Okay, got it. Check.
Oh, that was good. I like that.
What we were doing. And we kept just kind of looking at each other and he was much older than us.
So this is the guardian she's talking about.
A little intimidated. Yeah. And so we sat down and I went through my slideshow of all the pictures, and we added up all the costs of the repairs that needed to be done. And we anchored. That was the other really good one that we did.
Yeah, that was the 2 techniques.
Yeah, mirroring and anchoring. And we were going to offer him $60,000 because that's what Amanda had told us. And we were scared because he had said someone else had come in and offered him a low amount, and he was very angry. And so we were kind of nervous. You're in this person's home, don't want to insult them, but you don't want to overpay for a property.
Yeah.
And I mean, we walked out of there. Did we sign it for 65?
65, yeah.
We signed it for 65.
So
I love it.
yeah.
And we were so excited. And I was just gently tapping Stephanie's foot with my foot. I
remember telling me this.
I can't believe this is happening. I wanted to explode and be like, dude, you should have negotiated better. You did not. You wanted to get rid of that house.
Yeah.
And he was just bluffing with his 100.
Yeah. I have 2 questions about 2 things. You mentioned mirroring and anchoring. Can you explain those a little bit in further detail?
Sure,
Yes.
I'll do anchoring.
Okay.
So when we walk into a property and we say, hey, Michael, we've been looking at comps around your area, and we've noticed that some investors are buying properties in your area for about $30,000. That's not our offer to you, but we just want you to look at these. That's about what it is. And so that way, when we come back later and we offer 60, they're like, oh, we had that 30,000 in their brain, and they're worried that's what we're going to offer. And so when we offer higher, it seems like we're giving them more money, even though we're still so much lower than what they wanted.
Cool.
So from what I'm
Yep.
hearing, you're saying that you walked in.
Oh, nice mirroring technique.
There you go. There you go.
Yes, that's right.
I'm glad you caught on.
Yes. Yeah. So mirroring, to answer your question, Michael, is just as Susie said, like it can be as simple as just repeating like the last 3 words of what someone says and kind of an up tone inflection in your voice, like, so I hear you say this, or something. And then it's an open-ended where they can give you more information. And really our power as Triangle is understanding why people are really selling their properties and being able to meet them and provide a benefit to them that may not be financial. So in a lot of our situations, our services have nothing to do with money. It's helping. So for this particular guardianship situation, our value add was getting the squatters out. It's not something that he wanted to do. And we were able to do it without going through the court system. And we also actually able to help we got to know the people that were living there. We say squatters, they really weren't squatters because they had approval from a long time ago to live there. But we worked with them. We gave them a cash for keys, which is another technique that we did, and which allowed them to have resources to move forward. And so just providing service. So, but anyway, yeah, mirroring. So.
No, I want to bring up a couple things because I think it's super important whether you are like a passive investor or an active investor is like, even going back all the way to the beginning actually of this episode. So like Stephanie, you said like you tried it with one room and it took you a year. Like that is a lot of people's past, and that's totally okay, right? Like you don't have to think that within real estate investing, like within a day, you're a millionaire. Like it is a very long-term game. So like after that year, you're like, I'm more comfortable, right? Like I can do it a different way, like slowly watching you grow. But then another cool thing was that you were like, okay, I want to do something different. Like I'm going to try something in addition. Now that I have more confidence doing real estate investing, whether it's house hacking or having the long-term residence or just Airbnb, like then a lot of people might think I can't do this all, right? Because even before, like you said, you were oil and gas, and then you have the Airbnb company, and now you're doing wholesaling. Like, whoa, what? That's 3. Wait, and then you have a high schooler, like, which is a ball of joy all at the same time. And so then it's like, okay, wait, well, now what happens? The coolest thing, and I don't think we've ever really talked about this on the podcast though, but now it might come full circle, is like you found your who to your how, right? Like who can I bring in to help me succeed? And I think not enough people think about that, whether they are active or passive, right? Because when you're passive, it's like just asking other people in your circle, like, what are you doing? Like, who are you investing with? But on the outside, it's like, as an active investor, how can I grow? Like in these different areas, like who can I bring on to help me grow to make this like mission better? And then just to the third thing I wanted to talk about was the impact you made with wholesaling. So a lot of people might seem frustrated, like, oh, I don't need a middleman. Well, one, it's like the who, not the how, right? If you can't find the houses and Stephanie and Sammi can, like, why not just let them? But even with this individual, like you really helped him with a problem and that a lot of people might have walked away from. Right?
Correct.
Like, I don't want to deal with these other people, or they might have just been scared with like the difference in the amount, but like none of us actually know until we try. Right? Like, and you will get those no's. Trust me, I have gotten plenty. It's really, really fun. But like, it's really worth it when like time and time again, you can make a solution for someone that they had never thought of. Right? Like, because even when you're talking about, it was just a little snip, but like the tax, I don't know what the right term is. Tax lien. Yeah.
Tax properties. Yeah.
Like a lot of people don't think about that. Like, oh my gosh, I have property taxes that are due. I might lose my house. Nobody, or not nobody, a lot of people probably aren't going out there trying to attempt to sell their house, right? Like you have come in and fixed a problem because one, they get money, like either way, right? They're not going to have a home, but at least they don't have anything. Like that's
Right.
That's huge. Like it's huge. And so many people, like even when, Stephanie, you had mentioned like you don't love reading, even though I continue to give you books, which is on purpose, but
they're all really like large print and large space. I really appreciate that part.
But like that one book, even for me, like if you do want it, it's by Bill Allen, 7-Figure Flipping Underground. Like I'm pretty sure you can get it for free and just pay for shipping and handling. Like there are so many resources out there. Because if you think to yourself, like, I don't have time for a mentor or can't afford one. I promise you, well, one, I'll send you the book if you really want it. But or if you just like need the resources to like need the book, I will send it. But like, it's crazy what one book did, right? I mean, yes, you did go to Amanda's wholesaling class, but like the book really helped. Like,
the book generated that for sure.
Yeah. And it's like cool how the resources are out there no matter where you are in your real estate investing journey, right? Because even when you had mentioned, like, I didn't know anything. No, neither did we. Like, neither does somebody who is first starting. Like, and that's really the coolest part.
And we still don't. We're still learning every day.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
And I want to mention, if you follow Bill Allen, like he does a webinar like almost every week, a free webinar. So there are so many ways you can learn even from him for free. So sign up for that.
Yeah, all of this will be added to the show notes, but it just like blew my mind. Like, because your story is like, I actually like how like open you were and how raw you were, right? Like how you were excited, how you didn't know what to do, how you had to role play. Those are all things that are happening in the background. Like Michael and I, when we first considered doing BRRRRs, like Michael and I pitched with each other and I was still nervous and it was just Michael, but like, it's only with practice where you start getting less nervous, right? Like with my even with my first podcast, I was sweating profusely. Now I'm just like, hey, like I can drink coffee at the same time. Like we're good to go.
Yes. And once at the very end of the book, it talks about, and the Shirai is, I don't know how you pronounce it, the principle that he talks about. And so what it's some martial arts term or something, but it basically is to take one part of the business or one part of your life and focus on that until you master it and then move to the next one. And for a little bit, like when your mentor says, do this, you do that. Exactly. And you repeat it over and over until you're a master. And then you're able to add more complexity to your business or your life or fill in the blank. Right. And so that's really what we did was, I started with Airbnb. I started with a long-term rental that was accidental, and I was like, okay, that wasn't so hard. It just happened. I could do it. I figured it out. Then I moved to Airbnb, figured that out, added another room, then added a house. It was just, you're like, to your point, exactly, just baby stepping through it. And just being able to take the jump and go one step at a time and have, know that you're going to be able to figure it out.
Sammi, how did it feel for you? Like, I know you said you were super excited and your foot was tapping and everything, but like now, how does that, I know you have 3, but how did it feel after the first now to where it feels after the third?
It still feels the same. We went on an appointment yesterday and we role played in the car on the way there. We stopped in a parking lot and talked for a minute right before we walked in. Like, it does help that there's 2 of us. Most wholesalers are by themselves. Yeah. And so we work off of each other. Steph is typically, very generally, all business. What is this? How much did you pay? And I'm more about, what are your dogs' names? How long have you lived here? How did you guys meet? And so we go in there and that's how we hit them. Yeah. And they feel comfortable with us, and Steph's getting the information that she wants, and I'm taking pictures in the background, and we just work together really well on those appointments. And we've talked about how it's not really behooving our company from both of us to be going to these appointments because we could be doing other things. Yeah. But right now we just are doing it together because we work so well as a team when we're attacking these sellers.
Well, so one thing that Sammi does and adds to the team that's so great is the connection with people. That's just a natural thing. I'm more the worker, like we talked about earlier. I'm more naturally the worker bee and strategic person, and she's more the connection point. And so she asks the questions and connects with the sellers and brings out really how we can help them. And then I'm the problem solver and I can solve their problems. And I was talking to my daughter, Tia, who I've mentioned a couple of times. She plays basketball, and I love sports as an analogy and reference. And so she is playing high school basketball. And she, of course, I'm sure if you have any children that have played sports, that they complain about playing time or not getting the ball, or, like these are very common things. And so she's like, they aren't sharing the ball, or they're not giving the ball away, like they're hogging or this. And I was like, you have to be a problem solver on the court. Like if your teammate gets in trouble and they need an outlet, you need to be able to solve their problem, and they need to have confidence in you that you can solve their problem. And so that's what I think Triangle as a whole wants to represent, is for the sellers and really for the buyers, that we can solve a problem for them. And Sammi's really great at figuring out what the problem is, and then I come through and solve it. And it's the dynamic duo. It's perfect. It's been working really great.
I like that.
That's awesome. So before we move into the adventurous 4-hour, I'm sure all of the listeners out there are wondering, like, what is going to happen to this deal? You talked about like all the issues, the cash for keys, and I'm sensing maybe some kind of probate thing because of the guardianship.
Yes. Can I tell you about that?
Let's wrap up this deal before we wrap it up.
So we have to go to court when it's under guardianship. It's like a conservatorship. The owner of the home is in a nursing home, and she is not able to make decisions for herself. So her cousin became her guardian, and he has to make those decisions. But the court says, we want you to make those decisions, but we want to make sure you're doing it right and you're not taking advantage, and you're getting good deals and not just trying to get rid of our property because you're sick of it. So we have to go in front of a judge, and he has to make sure that we're offering an amount that is 90% of the tax assessor's value, at least. So we did that. We knew accidentally, we had no idea about this, but we accidentally already did that. And so when we went into the court, we'd already had some conversations with the attorney. Some were good, some were bad with the seller's attorney. And we walked in, and he said, hey, there's somebody here that wants to bid on this property.
Oh, so yeah. So the judge has to approve of the purchase price, and then in court, they open it up for bids. So there can be another bidder come in. And so we didn't know, that's like when we put this house under contract that day, we were like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. We have our first house. We had no idea. We did not have the house. Like we only had a piece of paper. It was not a traditional situation. We did not have the house. The judge got to decide if we had the house and if another investor came in. And of course, that morning we were like, okay, there's not going to be any other investors there. We totally have this, like trying to project this goodness, and
we had also talked about, if there is someone, we knew they did it in 10% increments. So how high were we willing to go?
Okay.
And so we said, well, if they bid 10%, hopefully we can match that, because we've done all this work with the squatters and working on the house and all of this. So we thought, hopefully we can match that. And so the attorney brings out this other attorney who wants to bid on the house. And Steph, first thing she says is, well, if you bid 10%, can we match it? And he said, no, you have to go above that 10 more %. And we had decided we did not want to go that high.
there wasn't enough margin. We didn't think for a second bid like that.
And so he made some convoluted story, and we did not record it. We record a lot of our
This
sales
is the other
pitches.
investor.
Yes, we record a lot of things. We weren't recording because we did not know what was happening. So I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was very convoluted. Like, hey, one time we had a deal like this, and instead of bidding, we just got $5,000. So it all went away. And then Steph goes, well, has anybody seen the house? And so the attorney went to get his contractor that had seen the house. And Steph goes, what did he just say to us?
I did not understand at all. I was like, what's he? He's trying to tell me something. I don't know what it was. Please
and
explain.
what he was saying was, if you pay us $5,000 right here, we will not bid on this house.
And you can keep it.
And you can keep it.
Or otherwise he was going to bid on it and we would have lost it.
And so we're like, what? We're being extorted in a courthouse?
Like-
By an attorney? You had never heard of this. And since we've asked a lot of people who had never heard of this either. And so we were like, well, 5,000 is still under that number, and then we wouldn't lose the house. So maybe we should do it, but it feels like it's illegal. Like we didn't know what we were doing. And so they called us in. We're like having this 20-second conversation trying to figure out what's happening to us. And they called us into the courtroom. And the judge, Steph, slides in right next to the contractor.
Which is also the investor.
Yes, yes. And the attorney was up at the front with the other attorney. And the judge says, okay, here's the address, and we're going to sell this to Triangle Homes. This is a good price. Are there any bidders? Oh, I see someone's registered as a bidder. Please come forward. And Steph goes, is this what you're trying to do here? And
I was
the guy
like, so
goes,
let me understand. I was like, so if I agree to pay you guys $5,000, you're not going to bid on the property. And he was like, yes. And I was like, okay, so then I would be all in. We have it under contract for 65 plus the 5,000. I would be like all in on 70. And that was still below our max offer. And I was like, okay, let's do the deal. I'll do that. And so they like immediately withdrew. He ran up and withdrew like seconds, withdrew their offer from the court. And so we walked out we walked out and Sammy's like, did we get it? What happened? I don't know what happened.
Right? Yeah.
It was so insane. It really is like, just like, it was something out of a movie, honestly.
It was, because the judge had said, okay, are there any bidders? And he goes, yes, I'm here to bid. And then the contractor ran up and said, don't bid. He goes, oh, Your Honor, I withdraw my bid. And I was like, I think we just got it. I think we just got it.
Anyhow, so we ended up leaving the courtroom that day with the contract.
And without paying, we were like, well, we're not paying you
We
today.
agreed to pay them at closing.
Yes.
So when we actually
We
found
wanted the
an
money
investor.
right then.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's, I mean, and we did find out later, this is something that investors do. They know about probate hearings, and it is, legal to bid on properties and everything. We just didn't
yes.
really understand. We didn't understand the outside of the courtroom process of it.
Yeah.
And so anyhow, we ended up with the contract and still had at that moment in time, we still had the people living in the property. And so Sammi was able to the next weekend officially get them transferred out of the property, and which was definitely
You're making it sound so sweet and nice. It was not. It was a lot of work.
It was a lot of work.
And we spent hours and hours there trying to get them.
wow.
I would say between the two of us, probably 15 to 20 hours
So
of us being at the property trying to get them out.
Yeah. So one mistake we made, and I would like to offer this as maybe a little advice for the
Cautionary
listeners,
tale.
is we set up an agreement we did like a notice to vacate, which is very common. You give them X amount of time to vacate the property. And so what we did was, with our original cash for keys, we set up a timeline. Like, if you're out by this date, you get this much money. If you're out by the following date, you get, a few $100s less than that. If you're out by this date, then there's no money involved. And I think that elongated the process, and we will not do that again. And so they just passed all their deadlines. And then when it came down to the real deadline, where they really had to be out because we had an investor walkthrough, then we were to the point where we weren't offering them money. And so there was no incentive for them to leave. And so we put money back on the table, basically, to the first highest number, to get them to be able to have enough, like they needed X amount of money for an apartment. And we're like, okay, we understand. Well, this is, so anyway, I think just our advice on that one would be to have one date and time in it to really be your deadline, and to really have your kind of highest and highest, whatever it is, your real terms, and do it once. So,
And if they pass that, then go file eviction with the court.
yes, I think
We
that's
did
our,
not do that because
yeah.
we were trying to make it less time, but it ended up elongated.
it made it a really large headache for us, honestly. But eventually we did get them out without filing with the sheriff, with the county and everything, and having to involve that. So we were very happy about that part. And then literally 2 days later, we sent out marketing to investors, and our mentor, another huge shout out to her. We partnered with her. And so she's coaching us. And so she allowed us to use her investor list, since it's our first deal. And we did a little Atlas Homes and Triangle partnership and sent it out to our investors. Had a very successful walkthrough, and we were able to get the property under contract for $115,000.
That's so exciting.
Yes. So a really huge win. I mean, we were talking to ourselves the other day and just saying, all the deals won't be like this deal. There was a lot of services and there were a lot of time involved, and maybe they will be. I mean, we can be hopeful, right? But, I don't think that should be someone I don't think that's the average wholesale assignment fee. It was a very unique situation, but that was our first deal. And Sammi did a lot of work on the inside to get the investors. I kind of work acquisitions more, and she works on the divestiture side, and we pulled it together somehow. We did their first deal. I don't know how. How did we do that?
I want to say, the walkthrough, there were 9 people that came through. And so it doesn't seem like a huge amount. We had posted it at 94.7. And then they had to bid by a certain time through our website.
Yeah.
And we got multiple bids. And so I did have one bidder that said, hey, if you get more than one bid, let me know, because I can probably go up more. And so since I had multiple bids, I went ahead and sent out another message that said, hey, we have multiple bids. please send us your highest and best bid. Now, this is it. And so then we got a second round of bids and closed it at that 115.
That's awesome.
And our official closing is on the 12th.
July
That's
12th.
exciting. It is. That's awesome. I'm so happy for you too.
So from March to July. Yeah. So pretty quick
And
turnaround.
we do have another closing this month.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Mhm.
That's awesome.
It is awesome. That makes me happy inside. Like, it's so cool because it's really just like the work that you put in, trying it out, trying the direct mailers, just trying everything. That's literally all that it is. And if one thing doesn't work, then you can go to another. But I'm glad that.
oh gosh, we've knocked on doors. We have done some crazy stuff.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It
That's
is.
awesome. So this is such a cool story. I really appreciate you sharing with that. I'm sure it's going to provide a lot of insights to some of our listeners out there for sure. But unfortunately, we're moving towards the end of the show. And which takes us to the Adventurous Four exploratory questions we ask all of our guests. So I don't know if you guys want to tag team the answers or you can both answer. It doesn't matter to me. But the first question we have for you is, where is one place you wish to travel to and why?
I'll leave you first.
So what my dream is to take I love cruising a lot. So does Steph. And I want to take one of the 30-day around the world cruises where I go to 15 different countries in 30 days and just spend a day and get to see a whole bunch of different places, because I don't know where I want to go till I've been there. Like, I want to see some places. So that's what I would be most excited to do.
That's cool.
Yeah. And for me, I've traveled quite a bit, but I've always just dreamed of traveling more and more. And I haven't really yearned for any one particular spot, honestly. So just adding to my experiences and adventures and exploring different spots. And so, yeah, it's definitely a part of our vision though, just not a specific spot for me.
That's okay. So the second question is, what is one thing on your bucket list and how are you leveraging real estate investing to achieve it?
You want to go first?
I will go first. So I kind of operate from the principle of keep it simple. And really, and Susie and I've talked about this a couple of times. One of my biggest bucket list items is to plant flowers and have money coming in while I'm planting flowers, and just being humble and home and grounded and connected with, when I wake up in the morning, I have the freedom to do what I want to do. And if that means planting flowers, like, that's just kind of my vision. And so that's a really big, but I know that's not a big thing. People, people, and it's okay to want things. That's totally fine. Everybody has a reason, but my thing is time, I think, and freedom, and to have real estate fund that for me.
I love it.
Yeah.
And mine is completely opposite of that. I would love to have homes all over the world that we can travel to whenever we want, but can make money for me when I'm not there. So we have a map on our wall with pins in it where I want these homes.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I'm totally on board with that too. I'm sure I can plant flowers there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I like that.
The third question we have for you is, what is one piece of advice for someone who wants to start passively investing in real estate?
Yeah, we had a client, we were in his home and he said, well, how are you going to pay for this? Well, we were trying to explain to him wholesaling. And I said, well, we have investors. And he goes, well, who's your investor? Tony Soprano? It just made me think. And I told him right then, I said, investors look just like you and me. Like, it's all of us. Everybody has a way to either start house hacking or use their 401k to invest in property. I just feel like most people do not know about this.
Yeah.
That there are other ways that you can start out small. You do not have to be Tony Soprano. I don't know why he chose it.
Mine is just what we hit on today. It's just taking it step by step, baby step through it. Do one thing you can do today to get you to where you want to be the next day. You can totally do this. Like I said, came from super humble beginnings, and I just feel 100% like, if I can do it, you can definitely do it.
Yeah, thanks for that. And then the fourth and final question is, if you had unlimited resources available to you, how would you leave an impact?
So for the last few years, my husband and I have been sponsoring a child at my kids' high school.
Oh,
and
wow.
we just help them with their school supplies, or we bought a parking pass this year, or their cap and gown. And I would just love to scale that to help so many more kids and make an impact locally with these kids that need help with things that we kind of take for granted. So I would love to make that a bigger foundation.
I love that.
I do
That's cool.
too.
So mine is a little smaller than that. Like in your intro where you talk about making a 1% impact, for a long time, my 1% impact, and I'll try not to get emotional, but my 1% impact has been my daughter, Tia. So she came to me when she was 8 and I had married her biological dad. So I was technically stepmom. And she came from a very difficult situation, poverty, oftentimes lived without utilities in the home. And so for me, my 1%, my big impact is for her is to make sure that she always feels like she's empowered and to teach her how to have financial success that gives her resources, because resources are the key to eliminating poverty. And so if she can understand how to always generate resources for herself, then she's going to be good. And hopefully that her generations and her offspring and her children and grandchildren, all that know how to do that for themselves. And so that they never find themselves in that spot.
I like that. Yeah. Tia will love that too.
And a little tidbit of information. And Susie, you know this, I get to adopt her. She's turning 18 and she chose to wait all these years. Neither one of her biological parents are really in her life at this point. And so she was hesitant for a long time and she decided that she's ready. So as she turns to an adult, I'm going to get to adopt her this year. And so we're very excited about that. And then I think on a much bigger scale, I think like Sammi helping kids and kids that are in tough situations. And it would be amazing. And Rich Dad, Poor Dad hits on this, but it would be so amazing to have some kind of schooling that the primary, whether it's junior high school or high school, has the centered around financial literacy and understanding investing and stuff on a huge scale. And then your fundamentals being kind of secondary, your English and your science and all that being a little secondary. We have all these schools, like these art schools, or even Sammy's daughter went to a soccer school when she was in high school. I think that would be so great for our community. And I think that change in our world starts with our kids.
Totally. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So
I didn't cry. That was amazing.
She cried when she told me what she was going to say.
yeah. So before we end the show, would you mind sharing with the listeners how they can find out more about you or reach out to you?
Yes. So if you'll share our website.
Our website is Trihoso. So it's Triangle Home Solutions. Trihoso.com.
Cool.
And my email is Steph, STEPH @trihoso.com. And my phone number is 918-698-2890. Feel free to text me, honestly, open book here. I would be happy to help anybody.
We've had so many people help us and step us through that we really, really enjoy helping other people
For sure.
do the same thing.
I love it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you guys. Really, we appreciate the opportunity a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you again, Sammi and Stephanie, for joining us. It's been a lot of fun. And I'm super excited to learn more about the first deal, because I was like getting the little glimpses in the background every time I was just there. So now to know full picture, it's awesome.
Yeah. And I feel like that it was like, how can you summarize it on a podcast? It was so many things.
No, yeah. Thank you again for joining.
Of course.
Absolutely. So until next time, explore more, adventure awaits.
Woo!